So why should Zambians vote for you, Antonio Mwanza? Why should they vote for you?
Yeah, so the reason why Zambians ought to vote for us is because we are the only political party with a clear economic agenda to end poverty, eliminate youth unemployment, create job opportunities for the Zambian people, and to make sure that the country's wealth is owned and controlled by the Zambian people. 61 years after independence, Zambia does not own its strategic industries that include mining, agriculture, telecommunication, banking and finance, as well as health and education. The Zambian people have been relegated to be people that are only workers in their own economy. And the foreign interests and foreign investors are the ones that are benefiting at the expense of the Zambian people. With 20 million population, 12.8 million of the 20 million Zambians are living below $2 a day. And we as Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, provide the much needed economic policy and economic agenda that will make Zambia and Zambians to own and control the economy for the benefit of the Zambians. And this is the reason why we are supposed to lead this country in 2026.
Well, Antonio, as the presidential candidate, what makes you uniquely qualified to embark on this ambitious economic agenda that you have set forth? What makes you uniquely qualified that Zambia should trust to lead this effort?
So there are a number of reasons why I personally uniquely qualify at this moment in time in our history. First of all, our population is more young people. So over 70% of the Zambian people are below the age of 35. And so far, the country has been ruled for the last 61 years by the independence generation. I represent the majority of the Zambian people as a young presidential candidate. I'm very experienced, having spent over 20 years of my life in activism, political activism, fighting for justice, fighting for equality, fighting for equity, and fighting for economic independence of this country. I'm young, I'm committed, and patriotic, and I come with a wealth of experience, and I represent not only this generation, but the next generation of Zambian leadership. So I have what it takes. I have proven throughout my record that I can be trusted as far as integrity is concerned, patriotism is concerned, and the willingness to sacrifice for the people of Zambia.
What do you say to those who are of the opinion that there are too many opposition political parties and the lack of unity among the opposition political parties backing one single presidential candidate to challenge the incumbent president weakens the opposition front, thereby creating a pathway for President Hakainde Hichilema to win re-election next year? What are your thoughts?
First of all, I believe that there is strength in numbers. That it's extremely important that the opposition political parties unite behind one candidate. But also in uniting, we want to be very clear that the unity must be based on the economic agenda for this country. The unity should not be based on politicians simply removing the current leadership and replacing it with another bunch of politicians that do not have a clear economic agenda for this country. So yes, we are open to alliances. We are open to supporting any other candidate, but on condition that we agree on how we are going to create jobs for the young people, how we are going to eliminate poverty, how we are going to ensure that Zambia and Zambians own and control the economy, how we are going to ensure that we take the millions of Zambians, 20.8 million Zambians out of 20 million population out of poverty. So our unity should not be based on political expedience. Our unity must be based on the fundamental principle that power must benefit the Zambian people. So even when we unite, we should unite with a clear economic agenda. And talking about the current leadership, the only way they can win the next election is either through the abuse of the state apparatus, because the indicators so far are working against them. Unemployment is high, inflation is high, poverty levels are high. The exclusion of Zambians as far as the economy is concerned, is very high. There's lack of tolerance from the leadership. This leadership does not respect the opinions of the majority. You can see how they're behaving over the issue of the Bill 7, the Constitutional Amendment Bill. And this leadership has polarized this country. We are more polarized as a people on the regional and tribal basis than we have ever been as a country. Zambia has always been a united country despite having 72 ethnic groupings. This leadership has failed to deliver on the promises they made to the people of Zambia in 2021 when they were running for office. So the only way they can win the next election is through the abuse of state apparatus, through violence, intimidation, as well as the continued harassment of opposition leaders through the court system, through the police, and through the judicial system. In a fair, clean election, they don't stand a chance to win the next 2026 general election.
Well, Antonio, supporters of the UPND have categorically denied some of these allegations as just purported, planned by the opposition to make the government unpopular and, make the president lose popular support, and that your former party, the Patriotic Front, is to blame, and that since coming into power, they've put in measures to invest in the economy, and Zambians will soon see the benefit of economic measures they've implemented over time, because they said, for example, the energy situation, the lack of electricity, the challenges of load shedding, were investments that should have been made 50 years ago that have been failed to do. Now the government is investing, and Zambians will soon enjoy the benefit of that. And that what you are doing is just politicking and acting using tribalism to undermine the faith of Zambians in them. And that these are just political calculations just to make the government unpopular. Your thoughts?
First, let's be very clear, Peter. It is not true that the previous governments have not invested in the energy sector. It is not true. So in 2021, the Patriotic Front, the former administration, won in 2011, and they lost the elections in 2021. When the Patriotic Front was coming into office, the energy levels were as follows. Zambia had about 1,700 installed capacity for electricity. The Patriotic Front invested in a number of energy projects. You can name them. There's a long list, including solar, Bangwewulu, Ngwenya, Kariba, and so many energy projects. They moved the installed capacity from 1,700 megawatts to 3,800 megawatts installed capacity. Zambia today has a demand of 2,400 megawatts of power. That's our total demand at peak level. The Patriotic Front worked and improved the installed capacity to 3,800 megawatts. As we are speaking right now, the load shedding we are facing is not as a result of drought; it's as a result of poor planning on the side of the current government. In 2023, this government was warned by the Meteorological Department of Zambia that there will be a drought in 2024-2025. And they were told that they needed to preserve water in order to ensure that in 2024 and 2025, when you don't have enough water, enough rainfall, we'll be able to generate adequate electricity. You know what they did? They went ahead against the advice of experts and signed open-ended contracts. They are supplying power to Botswana. They are supplying power to Namibia, okay, at the expense of the Zambian people. Currently, as we are speaking, Zambia is producing up to 1,800 megawatts of power. This 1,800 megawatts of power is enough to supply 18 hours of power to the Zambian people. But most of this, the government is exporting the power and denying the Zambian people an opportunity to have energy. We are exporting power to Botswana and Namibia, and Zambians are exposed to 3 hours of power a day. And there's no economy that can grow with only 3 hours of power a day. The poverty levels when this government was coming into office was 54%. Today, the poverty levels are above 60%. The food basket, when they came into office, was below 7,000 kwacha for a family of 5. Now it has shot to 11,000 kwacha for a family of 5. So the poverty levels are higher, the unemployment levels are higher. The issue of load shedding is as a result of mismanagement on the part of the government. And the truth of the matter is, when they talk about the GDP, that the GDP is growing, the GDP of Zambia depends on the following sectors. The mining sector, which is owned and controlled by foreign investors. The construction side, the construction sector, which is mostly owned and controlled by foreign entities, and government is giving the private-public partnerships to these foreign entities. It is controlled by telecommunications. These are the major contributors to our GDP. And these telecommunications are owned and controlled by foreign investors. The other sector is agriculture, which is again, commercial agriculture is owned and controlled by foreign sectors. The last one is trading and manufacturing, again, owned and controlled by foreign investors. So in terms of our GDP, even if it grows by 5.2%, the bulk of this money is shipped out of this country. So Zambians are not benefiting from their copper, they're not benefiting from their gold, they're not benefiting from their lithium, they're not benefiting from their sugilite, because all these natural resources are exploited and taken out of Zambia, and the foreign capitals in Europe, in the USA, and in China are the ones that are benefiting from our resources.
Well, Antonio, what do you say to those who are of the opinion that your economic proposal is too radical and will be a disincentive for foreign direct investment, which Zambians need to create the jobs that Zambians can work in, and that foreign investors are not to blame for coming to Zambia with a good business environment, and that what you are proposing will deprive Zambia of what it needs for foreign investors to come in and invest in the economy? How do you respond to that?
First, I want to make it very clear, we are not anti-foreign direct investment. We believe that Zambia cannot operate in isolation. We are not isolationists. We believe that Zambia must partner with all the other countries and work with different stakeholders. We invite foreign investment. But Peter, Zambia has had foreign investment since 1990 during the British Southern Africa Company, BSA Company. And I want to make it very clear to everybody who's watching this program that first of all, the foreign investors do not come to Zambia to develop Zambia. They come to Zambia to exploit our natural resources and to make money out of Zambia. That must be made very clear. Number two, there is no single country in the world, whether from the east or the west, that has been developed by foreign investments. All the major economies in the world that we have, from the US to Europe to China, they have been developed by the local manufacturing industries, by the local people taking a lead in the industrialization and the economy of the country. So our position, for instance, is that we want to embrace foreign direct investment, but that investment should be secondary. That any foreign direct investor who comes to invest in Zambia, we will not allow we will not allow foreigners, for instance, foreign investors to take over our mining, because that's where our money comes from. To take over our telecommunication, that's where our national security and our money comes from. To take over our banking, because that's where our money comes from. You can imagine in a country of 20 million people with 17 banks that we have today, only 2 banks in Zambia have got partnership with the Zambian investment. Indo-Zambia Bank and Zanaco. Okay, the rest of the banking sector is run and controlled by foreign investors. Where does the money go? It doesn't stay in Lusaka. It doesn't stay in Zambia. This money is shipped out. There are industries, manufacturing and processing industries that have been set up in Europe, in China, using our raw materials. We want the foreign investors who come into mining not to own the major shareholding. No, we want them to be minority shareholders. And we want them to invest in this country, to create the manufacturing jobs in Zambia, to create the processing jobs in Zambia, to industrialize Zambia. We want Zambia to be able to produce more goods and more services. That's the only way that Zambia can increase its foreign exchange earnings. That's the only way that Zambia can reduce the inflation rate without hurting the economy and without hurting the poor people. That's the only way that Zambians can create more jobs for the young people that do not have jobs. We cannot create jobs for our young people and improve the environment for our people if we allow all the proceeds from mining, communication, banking, finance, insurance, agriculture to be taken out of this country. Zambia in the mining sector alone is losing about 4.8 billion US dollars every year, 4.8 billion US dollars every year through transfer pricing, through tax evasion, through tax avoidance. That is the money that we need as a country to build schools, to build bridges, to build industries. We are losing all that money. We have given tax holidays to foreign investors in the mining sector. We are losing about 1.2 billion US dollars every 12 months. That is the money that we need to improve our health sector, to improve our education sector. So we cannot develop Zambia by giving our natural resources, gold, diamond, manganese, copper, to foreign investors. We cannot do that. And there's no country in the world that has developed by allowing its industries to be taken over by foreign investment. Yes, we want foreign investors, but we don't want foreign investors to take away all our natural resources and take away the profits that they make from our mineral resources. We want to benefit Zambia, and Zambians must benefit. So we welcome foreign investors, but we don't want them to take away everything that we have. God has given us these things. And it's only these natural resources that we can use to create jobs and to alleviate poverty and to create an environment where every Zambian must be given an opportunity to thrive.
Well, President Hakainde Hichilema said he's told all his political rivals to come for dialogue. So if you have good ideas, come. Let's dialogue, because all of you are working towards improving the lives of the people of Zambia. Why have you not shared such ideas with the president to see that the people of Zambia benefit from such an idea? Why haven't you taken up the opportunity to discuss with the president about some of these measures that you think would help the people of Zambia?
Yeah, so I want to make it very clear that we've consistently raised these issues with the government. But here are the things, Peter. First of all, the current government is not in control of the economy. The economic policy of the current government is prescribed by the IMF and the World Bank. Zambia has been on the IMF program from 2022 to date. And this IMF program, Peter, is not the first one that Zambia has had. We have been on the IMF program 18 times since Zambia got independence in 1964. And all the times that we have been on IMF program, these have been the results. The high cost of fuel, high cost of essential goods such as meal, because the IMF program's austerity measures only affect the poor. The austerity measures which IMF has imposed on Zambia under this regime has made the cost of living to go up. It has made the cost of fuel to go up. It has made the cost of electricity to go up. And it has made poverty levels to worsen. We have been on this path with the IMF and the World Bank 18 times, and it has not worked. So as long as the government continues to run the IMF program, Zambia cannot have the necessary resources that it needs to develop this country to take itself out of poverty. This is the reason why for us as the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, we propose that out of the billions that we're losing from tax evasion, tax avoidance, transfer pricing, and the corruption that is going on, we can preserve that money and make sure that we subsidize the critical sectors of the economy. We will subsidize fuel, we will subsidize electricity, because these are the engines of any economy. When the price of electricity is high, as it is in this country, when the price of fuel is high, as it is in this country, you cannot develop this country. The IMF and the World Bank are telling us to privatize strategic assets, such as the energy sector. ZESCO, which is our national utility firm, they are asking us to privatize. These issues are not helping. So as long as this government continues with the IMF and World Bank program, There is no way that Zambia can come out of poverty because we know what the IMF structural adjustments programs do. They worsen poverty, they worsen the social security of the people, they increase the cost of living, they increase the cost of fuel, they increase the cost of electricity, they increase the cost of doing business, and they make the lives of the Zambian people miserable. Lastly, on this point, we are dealing with a government that does not want to listen to the advice of others. As you can see, just last week alone, we have the constitutional amendment which is going on. The Constitutional Court of Zambia, which is the highest court in terms of constitutional matters, ruled that the government program of trying to amend the constitution without widest consultations from the Zambian people is unconstitutional, is flawed, is illegal. The Oasis Forum, which is a consortium of political parties, the civil societies, as well as the church mother bodies, had dialogue meetings with the president just last week. And the president was adamant that he cannot withdraw Bill 7, which has been declared by the Constitutional Court as flawed, as illegal, as unconstitutional. He has gone ahead to force Bill 7 on the Zambian people. So we are dealing with a government that is not willing to listen. We are dealing with a government that is adamant. We are dealing with a government that is averse to divergent views and to different opinions. So we cannot make progress with this government.
Before we go, what are your thoughts about the ability of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, to organize free, fair, transparent, and credible elections next year?
First of all, I want to make very clear to the people that are watching this program that first, the structure of the Electoral Commission of Zambia in its current form cannot guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. Because a number of commissioners that have been given a job as Electoral Commission of Zambia commissioners have got very strong ties with the current ruling party. Okay. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has just ended an exercise of voter registration. Their target was to register 3.5 million new voters. You know, Peter, they fell short. They failed even to reach 50% of their target. They only managed to register 41% of the target. The reason is simple. The Electoral Commission of Zambia deliberately suppressed the numbers of new voters by making sure that their programs were not properly advertised, that the publicity was shoddy, and they made sure that the number of centers where people were supposed to be doing registration from were either poorly resourced in terms of human resource or in terms of machines, which were not working because of issues of power. This was a deliberate ploy by the Electoral Commission of Zambia to suppress the number of young people to register. Out of 3.5 million target, they only managed 41%. And why did they do that? It's because they know that the majority of the young people today who are the critical number, the critical voice, do not support the current government. They know if they registered more young people, this current government would go. And we have seen from precedents throughout the by-elections that we've had, we have had about 80 by-elections. They have been characterized with vote buying from the ruling party. They have been characterized with violence from the ruling party. They have been characterized with abuse of state machinery, including state vehicles, state facilities by the ruling party. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia has failed to invoke the Electoral Code of Conduct to punish the ruling party. So we don't believe that with the current Electoral Commission of Zambia, looking at how they have handled the past by-elections and how they have handled the voter registration exercise, that we can have a credible election. We want to urge all partners that we deal with, SADC, the European Union, and all diplomatic corps to take keen interest on the issues of human rights, on the issues of democracy, on the issues of the rule of law, and on the issues of the ability by the Electoral Commission of Zambia to deliver a free and fair election for Zambia in 2026.
Thank you very much, Antonio Mwanza, presidential candidate of the DPP. I will continue with this conversation here at Africa Thinks, and we'll bring you back to talk about your vision and what you believe is the best way forward to improve the living conditions of the people of Zambia. Thank you very much, Antonio, for giving us a bit of your
Thank you,
time
Lisa,
today.
for the invitation. Thank you.